My reviews are spoiler-free, so I will not spoil the twist of this movie, unlike the trailers. Seriously, if you're thinking about seeing this movie, don't watch the trailers, don't read anything about it. Frankly, don't even think about it. If the prospect of a smart and well-crafted thriller appeals to you, then just go see it. As far as the plot goes, the movie begins maybe a little unwisely with Sophie Thatcher telling us that the two most important days of her life were the day that she met Josh, who is played by Jack Quaid of The Boys fame, and also the day that she killed him. That's not a spoiler, that's literally just the framing device in the first scene. But from there we launch into a clever, slippery, and occasionally unsettling little thriller. Getting into it, as far as the bad goes, there were a few minor decisions that I didn't love, but I can't really get into them without getting spoiler specific, so I'll just move on to the mixed. The main area where I feel Companion falters a little is unfortunately one of the most important areas, which is the ending. For most of the movie, it's very clever with its twists and turns and plotting, but then towards the end, there's kind of a turning point where a character dies in a way that I found to be very lazy and sort of utilitarian, like the writers just kind of wanted them out of the movie. And from that point on, I think the movie loses some of its smartness. The third act feels somewhat standard and predictable. Characters have the conflicts you expect them to have, say the lines that you expect them to say, and meet the ends that you expect them to meet. It's not bad by any means, it ties up the loose plot threads in a relatively satisfying way, and it does give us a few fun moments, but I just felt like overall the third act was not as smart as everything that came before it. But speaking of everything that came before it, let's get into the good. Companion is part of a new breed of films that I think is really taking off right now. These small, twisty thrillers with cool concepts and solid suspense like Barbarian or Strange Darling. And while this movie might not be as surprising as Barbarian or as mind-blowing as Strange Darling, it still has quite a few unexpected twists and turns that I really loved. There were moments where I was just jumping for joy at the various ways that the plot subverts your expectations. I love when a film can keep me on my toes, even when I know the first big twist, as I did with this one. But as exciting as the twists are, for me, the most interesting moments of the movie are actually the moments where it dives into its concept, which I wish I could get into more detail about, but I find myself constrained by my own rules, so I'll just say this. The conceptual twist of this movie is quite a good one, and it leads to some surprisingly timely and even thought-provoking moments that I did not expect to get from this movie. I even found myself a little bit psychologically disturbed at times from just the implications of certain scenes and ideas that the movie brings up. Ultimately, I think this movie ends up having a thing or two of relevance to say about what it means to be human, which is quite a return on my ticket money, I gotta say. But hearing that description, if you haven't seen the movie, you might be starting to think that this is going to be one of those dark, grim-faced A24 style films that we got in like the 2010s. So let me just emphatically reassure you that this movie is not that. It has a really good sense of humor. There were quite a few laugh-out-loud moments throughout the movie, and just overall, there's very much an atmosphere of fun throughout it, even when things are getting a little bit dark. The writers might be clever, but the characters are not, and so when stuff starts to hit the fan, it's very amusing to watch these characters basically just try to bumble their way out of these situations that they keep getting themselves deeper and deeper into. Companion isn't a perfect movie, it falters a bit towards the end, which is a shame, but it's still pretty damn good. In my opinion, it's a solid 7 out of 10.